kind of made a contract with myself and I said, I'm going to give you 10 years to do this. I was seeking validation from external sources.
Let's talk about Ethan for example.
Oh my God. It's a 2-minute video that literally changed my life. The first 10 years I made no money. I was working retail. And then all of these eyeballs started coming my way. And that coupled with the biggest venue, and I was tired with jet lag, and I was doing this, and I was like, I can't believe this is happening. And then after that special, I think I'm going to do the full-fledged, big production. The show has started. The show has begun. Time to have a good time. Time to have some. Don't leave me hanging.
What am I supposed to do?
You're supposed to say fun.
Fun.
Yeah, time to have some fun. So good to be here with you today. What's up?
My next guest on this podcast surprised me when he said he was going to do this. I was super excited. He's one of the rare people, maybe the only person on social that I follow where I have to come up to my friends, hey, you need to follow this guy, or I'll run over to my wife. Listen to his bit. Listen to this bit right here. And he is, among many different things, an actor, a musician, a comedian. He graduated from the Tisch School of Arts, but I saw him on TikTok. And normally I would phrase this question in a very specific way, but the way I'm going to do this is, if he's ready. What's your name, bro?
My name is Morgan J. Auto-tune comedian guy. That's what everybody knows me as. But there's so much more to me than that. That's what I've been primarily being like, I get stopped on the street like, you're the Ethan,
yeah.
Ethan. What's your name, bro? Ethan. You know, which is crazy to me because I've been doing this for, I want to say this summer will be 17 years. And then also when my fans find out, I'm 37, they're kind of like, what? But that's okay. I think my job keeps me young.
Well, it's also, you've got a pretty lanky frame. So that makes you look younger.
Is that a thing?
Once you hit dad bod, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, he's that age now. So there's some interesting things about you. But I'm thinking in this episode, I want to talk to you a little bit about personal branding. And something that I teach people and I talk about is different is better than better. And you are definitely different. There's a rare group of people who can sing and write music. And then there's a group of people who can do comedy and stand-up and crowd work. And then people who can act and then put it all together in a package, and you're one of the very few people. I'm curious, from your lens, how did you come to this place where you're doing what you're doing now?
Coming to this spot in my career has always been about evolution and not being the best, right? So for me, about 6 years in, because I was doing stand-up, and I was doing pretty well at stand-up, but I objectively, crowds were laughing, but it wasn't, I wasn't necessarily having fun doing it. So it was sort of this thing where it's like, whoever I decide to be on stage, however I decide to perform on stage, if I really make this my career, is the person I'm going to have to be for the rest of my life, right? So we want to make sure that I like that person and I like doing that. And so around year 6 is when I kind of hit this wall creatively, and I was like, all right, if I'm really going to do this, I got to like this. I was seeking validation from external sources, like, getting this job, being on Talking Head on, VH1's whatever, or this sort of thing, right? When the truth is like knowing that you're funny or you're talented or like if I can make myself, you know what it is? I say this a lot. You need to be the first person to buy the ticket. And that's informed a lot. And also, when I started doing the social media stuff, pivoting, okay, so let me go back. So I did the stand-up. I was always doing music, and then I was doing so far sounds, and that's where the crowd work started getting involved. And then the pandemic kind of led me to doing this auto-tune stuff. And that was only, a couple years ago. And then it was only in the last 2 years I brought that into my live shows. And then that turned into, the Ethan clip, and I'm the auto-tune comedy guy. So it's always been about evolving. I think if you're always obsessed with being the best, what if you are the best? Then where do you go? Right? Like what's left to conquer? Like, where do you go from there? Right? So I found this, like, don't be the best, but how can I grow and how can I change? Because that also offers a lot of excitement, and it offers a lot more places you can go. So, I mean, today, just for reference, we launched my 2025 spring tour dates, and the ticket sales have been like unprecedented, like astronomical. Like we're selling 1,000 tickets in like 30 minutes. You know what I mean? Like no, I'm not like selling like Matt Rife, but it's its own thing, right? It's like the power of TikTok and social media and branding and getting and learning how to use this app has made me basically I could be a consultant if I wanted to figuring this out. And I'm going to continue to evolve and transform. Like right now, the thing I'm most excited about is live streaming, and I do feel like that's going to be a huge kind of future entertainment. I mean, it's already here. I mean, I could talk at length about that, but I'm slowly trying to train my audience to accept those types of clips online, and like pepper that into the weekly content because no other comedian is really doing it right now. Like the actual live performing comedian.
One of the things that I think is an important principle to highlight for our listeners and people who are watching this on YouTube is that I think like if you just look at yourself as one dimension, you'd have to be the very best in the world to like really make a dent. But if you incorporate all of who you are, like being the meest me or the you you can be, very few people can compete, and you don't have to add all dimensions, but if you add something. So I look at you, I didn't realize this, but I was looking at your bios as you're Brazilian and Italian. You're 6'1". You describe yourself as the guy who was from Ratatouille. So you're embracing, this is what I look like. This is my background. You're embracing autotune, crowd work, comedy and music and performance. And I think that's the thing that makes a certain type of comedian stand out is like they know how to embody the emotion. And you do that a lot. And there's like little things that you do on stage because I like to study the craft, even though I have no aspirations of being in front of the camera like that, but I want to pick it up. It's like, what is he doing? Why is the crowd laughing right now? And how is he getting away with insulting everybody like the way he does? Or he's angry, but they all know he's not really angry because he's doing something. And you put all that together, and I would like for you to, like, what is your take on that? Like, how you're able to fold all those things in and just be comfortable being you?
A couple of years ago, I have a friend who's a social media advisor and marketing person, and even I used to work at the Apple Store. I worked at the Apple Store for like 6 years. It was a part-time job, and one of the things I really learned about was like a mission statement. For an artist, it would, you never hear them having a mission statement, but like if you're a creative in any capacity, in any medium, I would highly suggest having a mission statement, because what that's going to allow you to do is kind of expand creatively in all directions, right? Because if your mission statement is, I want to be the best comedian ever, well, that kind of only allows you to do stand-up comedy in a theater, hopefully one day, or an arena. But if your mission statement is like, I want to create genuine and authentic experiences for audiences across all platforms. I want to create an experience that is unique and that is memorable and that is one of a kind. So that a mission statement like that, while it might sound kind of, general or vague, if you're a performer, what does that mean? That means you can literally you could do music, you could do stand-up, you can do live streams, you can connect in different ways that you might have not thought possible, And for me, that's kind of where I operate from. I operate from that mission statement. And, one of the other things that makes my show really special is like, I honestly come from a perspective of hospitality, right? I have worked in restaurants. My dad was a chef. My mom catered. I worked retail. I did customer service. And I keep my audience in mind at every step of the game and the show, right? Like now that I'm doing theaters, for example, like we just started doing theaters. One of the things I realized is like, all right, when I do theaters, I can't go past the third row. Right. If I go past the third row, then everybody in the balcony doesn't get to see me. And then they're going to feel alienated and left out, and they're not going to have a good time at the show. So instead, I'm going to bring people. How do I make that adjustment so that those people feel included also, Because, I'm the product, they're the consumer, and we got to make sure everybody's happy with the product, So I look at it that way. And when they spend their money on you, it's like not just the ticket. I've said this before. It's like they spend money on parking and driving, and sometimes people fly or drive places. They hire a babysitter. They get merch, So a $30 to $60 ticket isn't a $30 to $60 ticket. It's more like a $200 ticket. How do we give that value? And that's like also my thing. It's like I want to make sure people get a show and they get that value. Money is tighter than ever. And I think, to go back to your question, it's kind of like that's where it comes from. That's how we tackle all those things. And for me, like, I think I've been doing this so long. I'm very grateful for this. So I hope that comes across, and I exude a lot of warmth on stage, and it's never malicious. And even when I do try to roast people, it's like I'm not afraid for people to make fun of me and be the butt of the joke, And I've heard before, it's you have to laugh at yourself before you can laugh at anybody else. So that's been a big part of it too. And I think it's worked wonders. I mean, I was talking to my assistant, and I was like, Am I just asking people their name in auto-tune? Is this all I'm doing? And like a little bit, right? It's a big part of it. But, he was saying, I think it's more than that. I think you're creating this kind of parasocial event for people that they're all kind of in on. And when you see the clip online, what I've noticed is the viewer puts themselves in that audience member's position, right? So it feels like they're experiencing it too. And I think that's what, no matter how many times I do it and how many cities or venues that's why I can do it for, 2 years straight at this point. And if I don't do it at a show, the crowds lose they're not happy,
Yeah. Well, it's kind of interesting because I think Matt Rife had the same problem where I guess because you don't want to post the show itself, so you post a crowd work, and then everybody thinks the whole thing's crowd work, and there's no written material that you prepare and work on really hard. And I saw your special on YouTube, and I was like, that's his whole act, right? There's a lot to it, and it's just not just doing crowd work, but that's what they see, and so they assume that. Now, I want to say a couple of things. From my observation, I'm just want to get your raw reaction to if I'm on point or I'm off. There's a couple of things about you, and kind of a message that everybody can learn something from is, although you're 6'1", you're not threatening to me, like physically, like the way you look. You're not menacing. You don't have muscles on your neck and your veins aren't popping out of your arms. When you playfully insult somebody, you're like, what the F? And you walk away, stop. And the crowd is laughing. Maybe the one person that's being done to, they're not laughing, but everybody understands. It's just his thing, and he's not really mad at you. It's okay. And it's kind of like, and also one thing that I really enjoy about what you do is you're super transparent. So if a girl, whether she's hot or not, comes up and says something like, "Whoa, what I'm kind of feeling something right now," or you'll say something, so you're very in the moment. And I think that's the beautiful thing about somebody who understands how to be present and do crowd work.
Going back to that mission statement of being like authentic and unique, like you cannot deny when you're doing a live show, and especially one as intimate as mine is, you cannot deny what is happening in the moment. And I feel like comedy specials that come out now, classically, they're at a theater, they do an hour of jokes, it's them presenting their jokes, and they leave, right? And what are the moments we remember from those the most, right? Like if you look at, I believe it was Richard Pryor's special Live on Sunset, he just walked out. This is an old one. This is one of I watched this a long time ago, but I wasn't alive, but point being is like the beginning of his special, he just walks out on stage and people are getting to their seats and he's calling attention to it. And it's these moments that can't be replicated, right? It's like these moments that like, if you catch it on camera, it feels authentic. Like I did a show when I was in Sydney. I had a clip that I posted last week. And I personally, I didn't think it was a funny clip of mine. I mean, I post every day, and some clips are good and some clips are bad. I mean, even Taylor Swift's batting average is like 30% for hit songs. You know what I mean? So if you take that into account, I'm not always going to post like the best clip in the world. But sometimes I'm surprised when a clip I think is bad does well. But my friend who works social media with me, he was like, I don't know what it is about this clip. This girl yells out in the middle of it, and she goes, I have Tourette's. And then I go, you got to go? And she goes, no, I have Tourette's. And so there's no joke there, but there's something about like the honesty of that moment, I guess, that him and like 3 million other people were, found nice to see. You know what I mean? Because I'll be honest with you, I mean, because I don't always have like the most clever and thing to say, which is why, I have this, I got this. I can kind of fall back on this. Like it is a little bit of a cheat code, but another friend of mine said, like, look, man, it's like, I don't think it's a cheat code because you're doing a lot of shit on stage, man. You're literally dealing with technology, you're dealing with people, and you're presenting a show. You're doing like 3 to 4 things at once, where when you're doing just stand up, it's just you and the joke, right? So there's just different levels to it.
Okay, let's just say the thing that people find appealing, at least I'll speak for myself, is when these unplanned, unscripted moments happen and you capture lightning in a bottle and hopefully there's a camera to catch it. That's the best. Like, let's talk about Ethan, for example.
Oh my God.
That thing has, 140 million views?
Between all the social media platforms, yeah, it's probably at 150 million views. I mean, it's a 2-minute video that literally changed my life and Ethan's life. Ethan is playing music. He has his own small following now. That's a clip. That's another one that I posted just like, all right, here, right? I don't know. Because I don't really tell a joke in that. And one of the things that I've actually heard for marketing to Gen Z right now and Gen Alpha is that they're not looking for like a pitch. They're kind of looking for a vibe. They don't need the whole story start to finish, you know? So I think what's going on with that clip is that I captured a vibe. It was very warm. It was just fun. I had my mustache was strong. I had an interesting look. And I had there was a lot of things going on in the video. You know, Sebastian Maniscalco says, you know, one of his specials, he wore like an odd shirt. And this was at a time when people were flipping through channels, right? So if you can wear something that catches the eye, then the person's going to be drawn in and stay a little bit longer. You know, it was a little bit of that and a little bit of being a musician. Like, let me put like a more eccentric outfit on. Let me look a little bit more eccentric on stage. So I think there was a lot of things. The quality of the clip, you know, audio, visual, what I was wearing in the clip, the sound, everything about it kind of came together. And I think it made for, you know, even the angle at which we shot it. There's like, I'm sure there's a science we can break this down to, you know. I don't try to get too obsessed with it, but I think shooting it from far back and seeing all these people makes you feel like you're in the crowd too. You know, I've spoken to my reps about the next special and about how I want it to look very rough and ready around the edges. So, right, there's the millennial pause, as they say, but there's also the Gen Z shake, right? I don't know if this is what it is. Gen Z, right before they film, they like the camera shakes and they press record,
right?
And that's like their thing, and it just speaks to the lack of polish around things, you know, which also is why I think live streaming is a huge place to move to.
Yeah, there's a quality to the clips that you share that feel like I'm just peeking into a show from the back somewhere.
Yeah,
sometimes it's out of frame and like the lighting isn't perfect, but it feels very real.
I was going to say, the one other thing that I do that no other comedian does, and I haven't seen another comedian do this at all, is I look into the camera sometimes. So while my cameraman is there, I look into the camera because while there might be 400 to 1,000 people in the crowd, I have 4 million people on their phone. And so when I look at the camera, I am looking at them. So then they feel like I'm like bringing them into it, you know? You obviously have your in-person audience, but there's a huge audience that's online that they want to be seen. I also realize like too much eye contact right now for Gen Z, it could be too much. So we don't want to do too much.
So yeah, you are juggling a lot of things. There's spatial awareness, and what you do is oftentimes you break the fourth wall. You say, hey, get this shot. Make sure you get this. And was that on camera? We're good. And it just like you're breaking all quote unquote rules about how you're supposed to do this, and it's creating this really intimate moment.
And that's what I like, intimacy. You know, it's like that. Yeah. That I always try to make my shows intimate or feel intimate, you know?
We're going to show that clip, the Ethan clip.
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
We'll do it later, but I want to talk about it. Like, you set it up. Like, what year is this? Where are you at?
This is 2023. This is on Wilshire Boulevard at the Haysworth Theater, or as they call it, the Dynasty Typewriter. This was the first show of my fall tour of 2023. To be honest with you, that show was one of my least favorite shows of the whole tour. I didn't feel like it was the best show I did on that tour, yet it yielded the most impactful clip of the tour. You know, because look, I was doing well. At that point, I had 1 million followers. I had credits. I was probably averaging, 200 tickets a show on a Wednesday, which is good. Like, these are off nights, right? I wasn't doing weekends because I wasn't a proven sell, to promoters. But then, and then I had some other videos go viral. But then that Ethan clip drop, I remember the next day it was at like 10 million views, and I was like, oh, okay, this went viral. And sometimes you watch the numbers to see if it slows down, and it wasn't until like 60 million, 70 million views, I was like, what the? Because even Matt Rife or somebody like Trevor Wallace, I mean, they have clips that have a lot of views, but I don't think either of them had a clip that hit over 100 million views. I don't know what comedian does. I I'm not trying to. I really don't. I mean, if there is, I would want to see it. But over 100 million views on TikTok for a video that's longer than 60 seconds. By the way, it's like 2 minutes and 13 seconds. You know, was pretty. I was very shocked by it. What's funny is that video also somebody from Nigeria stole. Whatever. I don't want to say steal because the internet right now it's kind of like the wild, wild west. They repurposed the clip on their Instagram account. Right? They had about 130,000 followers in Africa. And I don't know what you know about social media, but when you post, there is a certain level of geolocation going on. They're going to send it to people closer to you in proximity than farther away, and also in time zone, right? So I guess this person posted it in Nigeria, and now one of my top markets is Africa. Like some of my top 5 cities are like Johannesburg, Nairobi, another one called Ateumco, Lagos, and another. Like it's bizarre. Like I could do a full tour in Africa and sell out right now, which I haven't. We will, but it's just bizarre.
So if you're listening to this right now on a podcast, we're gonna play that clip and we're gonna talk about it. And if you're tuning in on YouTube. But before we do all that stuff, I just want to make sure if you're enjoying this conversation, go check out Morgan J on social media. He's got over 4 million followers on TikTok, over 1 million on Instagram, and he also has a YouTube channel. I'm sure if you just type in Morgan J, Google will figure out the rest.
You could type in Morgan J, J-A-Y, or you could just type in auto-tune comedy guy now.
Look at that.
I'm the first thing that pops up because nobody does it. Although, but get this, people are doing it in other countries. Like you know how like there's the English version of The Office and there's the American version. There's like a Russian version of me now, and a dude from Portugal. I swear to God, like other countries, people are just doing this. I'm not even mad about it. I don't even care. It's fine. You know, imitation is the biggest form of flattery. Anyway, enjoy the clip.
What's your name, bro? Ethan. Do we love Ethan? Ethan, is this your girl next to you?
No, she's my friend.
Oh, shit. How long you guys just been friends for? Tell us, young lady.
2 years.
Yo, wait. Y'all need to be a couple. Cause they be singing. I know the auto-tune is on, but they kind of hitting it. Hell yeah. How old are you, my guy?
20.
Oh, shit. What about you?
21.
21. Damn, Ethan. She 21 and you don't got a girlfriend?
Morgan, chill, I got a girlfriend.
What'd you say?
I got a girlfriend.
You got it? You said you got one?
I got a girlfriend.
Hold up. Suspicious as the you doing? What the you doing, Ethan? And what about you, girl? You got a boyfriend?
No, I'm single.
Oh, shit. Something fishy's going on here. How long you been with your girl for?
Like a month.
Something's up. You promise? You promise?
I swear.
Say, no. When you say I swear, you say, and I swear. You ready? Do you promise? Do you promise?
And I swear.
Let's go. Here we go.
I have a bunch of questions for you about all the pieces that had to come together to make this clip, just as a person who's a fan and has watched it. First of all, you have 2 young people. They're giggly and they're participatory. Were you wearing the velour suit or the velour shirt in this clip?
Yeah, it's not velour, but it's like a $50 suit. It's like a 2-piece from Amazon. I had one of those, wife lover shirts on,
So you're doing this thing, and I think the part that gets real funny is because he's like, no, I'm in a relationship, but then you're how long? And it's like a month, but they feel like they should be a couple, and they've known each other for, I think, 2 years at that time. And then you drop the suspicious AF line, and then everybody bursts out.
Suspicious as fuck. Oh, it's not in the right key, but you get what I'm saying.
Now your audience knows that line so well that something funny happens, you can point to them, and they, in unison, sing that line with you, which is, I think, really cool.
I do have a full suspicion. I mean, I'm wearing my merch over here. I like my merch. I wouldn't sell something I didn't want to wear. So, the suspicious as thing, that song came a little bit earlier. I'd been doing that for a while. But now, like, I'm in this space now where I'm like, how much new material do I need to do? And because I do music, and I know we have more questions about the clip, but like when I do a theater, because I remember I was in Australia, I didn't do Suspicious as and then but at the end of the show, a bunch of people were yelling, why didn't you do that? Like, do the song. And I'm realizing like, oh, maybe I just have to do the hits that people want to see and then pepper in. I'm operating from a different space than a standard comedian is now. Yeah, the Suspicious we have to do it on the shows now. That and the LOL song, I can't not do it. You know, I'll probably have to just speed it up if I want to do new material. You know,
I guess they want you to do those hits so that they can feel what. I guess they want to re-experience or experience
100%.
that what they've seen online, right? Makes sense. The clip, and then the way you end the clip is like something like, he goes, I promise, and you go, no, do it like this.
And I swear.
Now, it seemed like if you didn't know anything, you watched it, you would think, of course Morgan's going to say this. And in that moment, was it obvious to you, like, hey, he shouldn't say I promise, he should say I swear and do it. Is that a Backstreet Boys song?
That's a I think it's a Boys Cement song.
And I
swear by the stars and the moon and the light, I'll be there. Knowing that, I'm almost certain this person did not know that song. That wasn't planned. That just popped into my head, and I was like, let's do that. And maybe that is where the magic comes from, just like that moment and embracing it.
It played out exactly the way you would hope it would play out, and
yeah,
that video takes off. Is that the moment things start to change for you? Like, I know you've been doing this for a really long time, and if that was just last year, that means you've been grinding at this game for 15, 16 years before something goes thermonuclear for you.
The first 10 years I made no money. I was working retail. Shortly after I quit my retail job, I was doing fine. I was performing at colleges and clubs and opening, and I was acting in commercials, and so I was making a living. I was doing fine. But then that clip dropped, and it went from like, I'm doing fine to, oh man, I got to hire a financial planner. Oh man, I didn't even know these other opportunities were possible. And then all of these eyeballs started coming my way, and people whose attention I wanted 10 years ago, all of a sudden were like thirsting to sign me and do this and that. And I'm grateful that it happened when it happened. I mean, if something like that happened, 10 years prior, I don't know if I would have been able to handle it or back it up with material and more. It's like the light of the industry of entertainment only shines upon you but once if you're lucky, right? So for me, it's good that it happened now when I'm 36, 37, because I have ideas, I have work ethic, I have discipline, I have hours of material, I have the experience now, and I think a lot of creators who are younger, especially my fan base, their main focus is going viral and getting 1 million views and doing this. But the question they don't ask themselves is like, well, what happens after that? Like, what's next? How do you turn this into like a real business? How do you make this your career? That's the difficult thing. But luckily I was already doing this before the social media. Some people can do it. Some people love doing it and love gaming that system and getting those numbers and then they make that the business, I know those people. But for me, those numbers was never, I was doing this for free for so long. So it's like anything I make, for example, from the TikTok Creator Fund is like, I don't ever expect to make money. I don't make money from Instagram because my content always gets flagged as inappropriate. I don't make any money from Facebook. And then even on YouTube, I don't really make much money either because of the content, like because of the nature of the what's in the video. It's not like I'm making bazillions of dollars off of social media income. It's mostly from touring. I don't know. I totally went off on a tangent, but I'm the worst at this.
No, all good. Feel free to go wherever you want to go. The question I have for you is, as an artist, comedian, musician, actor, what keeps you going? Like, how do you persevere through those years that are necessary, I think, to acquiring skill, confidence, material, so that 15, 16 years into it, it finally happens, the light shines on you that one time? Because a lot of people would have quit.
There's a couple of things I'll point out. So when I was 20, I kind of made a contract with myself and I said, I'm going to give you 10 years to do this, right? And if you can't make a living doing this in 10 years, then by 30, pivot, start something else, do something else. Like, be honest with yourself, don't be delusional. And the second thing, did I give this everything I could give it? And if the answer is no, then you probably want to move away from it. Or am I having fun doing this? So like 6 years in to it, I wasn't having fun, and I had to like look in the mirror and really decide because if I want girls to like me or people to like me, do I need to be a comedian, or can I just do any job and make a lot of money and live a life and be charming, or And then there's also little victories along the way. There's little hints of people saying things to you that kind of give you this fuel to keep going. My parents were always supportive of it because my actual father, he passed away, but he was an artist when he was my age, and so my mom understood. And I went to one of the best theater schools in the country, right? Like you don't. There's like little things that you have to tell yourself, like, well, I wouldn't have gotten here if I wasn't talented, or I wouldn't have done this. And you also have to be like you're an editor to yourself too. And there's just like so many little things. Definitely is. There's like these little DMs and messages, and from people who tell you like, oh, this is really funny. Thank you for doing this. I think one of the best compliments I got was after a show in Brooklyn. A girl came up to me and was like, I didn't think anything you did was funny, but I still liked you. And I think, that's if you can transcend the actual material you put out, if you can be likable on stage, you can kind of do whatever you want. In an ideal world, I think you can do whatever you want. Obviously, there has to be also some entertainment, but the bar is a little bit lower if they like you. If you're likable, even now with the new tour coming up in 2025, I got to write at least like 2 more songs, just to pepper in some new stuff and new flavors into the show. So that's the main goal.
Let me peel away the lesson for folks here, because not everybody has parents that are supportive or understanding.
Yeah.
We can't control that. But the thing that really stuck out to me is you made a contract with yourself. You put finite terms on it, like these are the conditions. This is how long. Because a lot of people will pursue this, but they don't have that clarity. So maybe in year 2, like, I'm a loser, I'm failing. No, you still have 8 years. So if you just put finite parameters around things, you have to enjoy what you're doing. And you have to see like there's a path forward for you. And there's a couple of things that you said there. And can you make a living doing this?
There has to be a certain level of objectivity when it comes to, especially with art, right? And it's so for the first 5 years, 3 to 5 years, like if I didn't have a good set, I took that personally and I took it to heart. I forget when it was, but there was a certain point in my career where I started grading my sets. So I would grade my performance based on material, my timing, my delivery, and my focus, I guess. I just picked, because if I could go and have a way to actually give myself a score, then I could separate my personal self and feelings from the actual, like, work of doing it. And that finite, timeline and those contracts, I've continued that practice throughout my whole career now, right? So when I tried starting a podcast, I said, all right, I'm going to do 10 episodes. And after 10 episodes, and I'm not going to put it out until I have done the 10 episodes. Ended up doing like 13 or 14 episodes. Found out, didn't really like doing the podcasting, right? So I wasn't going to put my time in front of that, in that bucket. When I started doing musical comedy, I said, I'm going to give myself the summertime. I'm going to write 2 songs in this summer, and I'm going to do these 2 songs at the open mics and the shows around LA. And those 2 months then turned into, 3 months and then a year. And then now we're here with the music comedy, right? Or like with this live streaming situation, right? I'm going to stream Sundays and Mondays, 6 p.m. every week for 2 months. And I'm going to see what results this yields. If I'm having fun, if I'm enjoying it, then I'm going to keep doing, so it's like anytime you're trying something new, like, cause you're right? It's like people will be like, I want to be an entrepreneur and I have a business that makes 7 figures. Okay, great. All right. But like, what if it doesn't in the first year? Does that mean you failed then? It doesn't at all. It just means in the first year of this business, you didn't make the money. It's like, you just have to be realistic and keep setting these objective guidelines to your career, in any career, honestly. My best friend, he's a doctor now. We started doing stand-up together at like 19, 20, okay? Just to give you a point, he didn't go to college after high school. He went straight to New York. He started doing stand-up. He is arguably, in my opinion, might be one of the funniest people I know and one of the smartest people I know. He was 5 years in, just like me, and was like, man, I think I'm going to quit. This lifestyle isn't for me. And then he went back to college, and now he's a doctor, right? Did he fail? I don't think he failed. He was like honest with himself, and he made the decision like, this is not for me, because this lifestyle isn't for everybody. We're not all going to be lucky to do a 1,000-seat theater, or you know what I mean? There's also that. There has to be a certain level of honesty with yourself about how you feel about it. So if you're somebody who's not, that's why I also recommend therapy. I'm like the only one in my family who's gone to therapy. So learn how to communicate with yourself in a positive way, and everything else will be better,
On that note, I'm going to make a request here.
Yeah.
First a question and then a request. It's kind of a bitter, sweet, sad song, and it's so playful, and it's kind of touching. Like sometimes I feel like people want to cry when you do this part, and the song is like, "Are You My Dad?"
Oh yeah, do I have that? Let me see if I have that programmed here.
Tell me a little bit about the inspiration behind that song, and if you could perform a little bit, it'd be great.
Let me see if I have it here. One second.
Okay.
I think I do. Can you hear that?
Yes.
Hard to miss something I never had. Hard growing up without a dad. So many things I had to learn on my own. So many things only a father could show. Would you be my dad? Now don't be shy. Would you be my dad? And help me with this tide. And then, you know how it goes. I bring somebody on stage, and
Yes.
I try to get a Gen Z or younger millennial to tie a tie for me, and then they obviously can't do it, or they do it too slow, and then I kick them off, and then I say, "You're not my dad." There's always this feeling of like, you as a audience member, anytime you watch somebody be vulnerable or be honest or truthful, it's like an attractive thing, because you're doing something that might be hard for them to do. I had a writing session with my friend Heather, who I've known for years and years and years, and she's like, "Why don't you have why don't you just talk about your dad?" Or like, she just was like, "You should have a song about finding your dad." Literally, that's all it was. That was the prompt, and I was like, let me run with that. Let me try that. And then, a big part of my act is trying to get the audience involved and make them feel a part of the show. So I said, how can I do this and have the crowd involved? And that's just kind of how it was. I just kept thinking about it and taking little voice notes and walking around the writing process isn't always like sitting down and writing. You kind of just wander around a little bit. You're like, because for that song, I only have the three things. It's like tie a tie, throw a ball, and then tell me that you're proud. There's other things like that I had written down, like have them open a jar, have them, spank me or something like that, right? But it comes down to editing, and it comes down to time, right? There's, once, especially with music comedy, once people understand the game or the gist of what's going on in this joke, they'll get tired of it pretty quickly. So you want to err on the side of it being shorter than longer. I always ask myself when I'm done writing something, I was like, can you go further? Can you go further with this? And then after I do that, I'm like, well, can you go even further? How much further can you? I think one of the first comedians that ever introduced me on stage, Mike Drucker, he gave me a piece of advice when writing. He said, after you write a joke, rip off the first half of the joke, and then that's actually where your joke starts. So the second half is actually where it starts, and then go from there. And he was absolutely right about that. And I don't know if that can be, related to any other types of mediums, but ultimately, the first idea isn't always necessarily the best idea. Sometimes it is, but just take a little bit more time and go a little bit further with it and see if you can do more with it. And that's how the song became my closer. Now it's the last song of the show, and it ends in this heartfelt, emotional way, and with a hug and me asking the crowd if they're proud of me. Yeah, I love it. Literally in Australia, and it's very personal to me because my dad died. I was doing Sydney and up about 3 weeks ago, and that was the biggest venue I'd ever done in my career. It was 1,600 seats, and I always try to pick an older guy out, like a dadly looking dad in the crowd, and I brought this guy up, and he just was like, even now I'm talking about it, I'll get emotional because he was like, "I'm proud of you, son. I'm proud of you. I love you. I love you, son." I can't do the accent, but he just...
It sounds like an Irish or Scottish accent there.
Yeah, I know. He kept saying he loved me.
Yeah.
Normally they just say it once, but this guy just kept saying it. And it was like some Goodwill Hunting shit. And he gave me a hug, and I was like this. Because that coupled with the biggest venue, and I was tired with jet lag, and I was doing this, and I was like, I can't believe this is happening, but it all worked out. So I love that bit. And that the thing is, the real challenge with my act now is like, what's the next rabbit or piece of magic that I have to pull out of the hat in order to make this special for the audience, So that's what I'm thinking of now.
Did you grow up for a period of time without your dad around?
Yeah, I mean, my dad was around till I was 6, and then he passed from colon cancer. Then my mom remarried probably she met my stepdad. I want to say like maybe a year or two. I don't even remember. Could be 2 years later. So 2, 3. I don't remember. But my stepdad has been around since I was at least 9 years old. So he's all, for all intents and purposes, my dad. But I thought there was an interesting subject here, because it's like when I bring it up at the beginning of the bit, I'm just like, oh, my dad died, and I wanted to see how I can make this a joke. To the audience, it seems like, what the fuck? How is it going to end on such a sad note? But it's not like that. It's like hopeful, and it's warm, and it's endearing, and sadness and happiness are just two sides of the same coin, right? And it's like, I think joy, the word joy and the idea of joy kind of encapsulates all those feelings. So my show, I try to fill with joy. And if that's the case, you're going to get these moments of these little pangs, and you're also going to get these moments of warmth and happiness. So I think that makes it special too.
I think it's special because it's unexpected. You think it's going to be joke. We're going to laugh. You're going to talk about sex and all kinds of inappropriate things. Then you get into this really vulnerable moment, and you ride that line between like, we're all going to cry, but then you throw the joke in. And so you know how to bring them back and forth. And that roller coaster of emotion just reminds us we're alive, and there's this thing called the human experience, and we're going through it together.
100%.
And I think even it's pretty genius you pick some really young person who could not possibly know what it's like to be a dad. They fumble through it. But, everybody has a dad and a mom, and they can relate either as the child or the parent or soon-to-be parent. And it's super relatable and vulnerable, and it just feels like they can put themselves in your story.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big part of like being able to plug and play any audience member into the show. And I think also there's no other act that does that, right? Where you can go to the show, buy a ticket, and all of a sudden you are also a star of the show. There's another bit you haven't really seen. Maybe you've seen clips of it, but it's the dirty talk bit.
I want to ask you about that.
Yeah, what I do is that's even more so. I allow them to do a whole verse or like a whole couplet. They could just read it off. I try to make it as idiot-proof as possible. Like, because singing is hard and finding rhythm is hard, and so I just try to keep it like da 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 da, like a 4/4. And the thing is, when we watch people do that, we want to see them succeed, man. It's like people want to see you succeed more than I think people want to see you succeed more than they want to see you fail. And so in that instance on the show, like when somebody nails it, boy, does the crowd lose their absolute minds over it. And then that whole room is filled with happiness that they nailed that shit, Seeing somebody come out of their shell, seeing somebody allow themselves to be embarrassing is incredible. Because it's such a sentiment and a nature that we push down as we get older. I've also described my shows as kindergarten for adults, So come to my show. We're going to sing along. You might sing. And the thing is also, like, if you don't want to sing, you don't have to. There's definitely been times where I've tried to get somebody to sing. I have clips of those, and people are like, like, I'm not going to sing. I'm like, all right, that's fine. You want to sing? You want to sing. But you did fuck up the show for everybody else. I don't say, I say that. But in all honesty, like, I'm not mad at them. I'm not, it's all good. It's all
You're fake mad at them.
I'm fake mad at them.
Yeah.
How could you be? I mean, anger is such an interesting emotion. I think about that. So that's why I think it's funny to actually be mad. It's hard for me to count the times when I've actually been angry with someone or something. I've been disappointed, of course, but I don't know. It's like, that's life, right?
I think I heard this before, but for whatever reason, when you performed it right now for us live, there's a little Kermit the Frog in your voice there.
Oh, I guess there was a little bit. There is a little bit when I do it live now. It's like totally evolved a little bit as I do it, because sometimes I ham it up even more and more, with the lighting and the, 100%. But also, it's interesting that you bring that up, because Kermit is somebody associated with our childhood. He has some of the most warm and beautiful Why are there so many songs about rainbows? What's on the like? There's this childlike wonder that happens with that tone of voice or songs like that.
Like in the Muppets, he's like a good guy who's always trying to take care of everybody, but it doesn't always work out. But he's not like a bad news bear kind of guy. So there's something pure about him. And when you sing, you know what it's like not to grow up without a father, but you do the Kermit voice, like, God, it takes me right back there, you know, watching it on PBS or whatever.
The other thing about that song I want to point out is that I do feel like sometimes when people have trauma or heartbreak in their early childhood years or growing up, things that kind of shape them, I'm not the kind of person to let something like any sort of trauma define me, and I don't like to wear it on my sleeve, and I don't want to make my whole identity about that, because I do operate from a place of gratitude and I love life, and so I want other people to be able to laugh and feel silly about it, right? Like, because people are going to die, and like that's just kind of part of it, and we just accept that it's going to hurt. But you can't, you know, because I know people in my personal life who cannot move past the bad things that have happened to them. And we know those people, and what happens, it kills motivation, ambition, drive. It kills this, and not even ambition to be whatever a success is, right? Just to like enjoy your life, right? They lose the ability to just enjoy things. So with a song like that, I want people to kind of walk away from it like, no, this is funny. It's funny that his dad died, you know. But in all seriousness, it's like, it's okay, but it's also okay.
I'm a nerd when it comes to pop culture, and I study comic books or graphic novels. And one thing that I point out to people, the hero and the villain in the comic book suffer from similar trauma or tragedy. Bad things happen to them. Batman becomes the Dark Knight and protects Gotham. And the Joker blames society, and he wants to inflict that kind of same pain to everybody. And the line that you said is like, you know, I don't want to be defined by that one very tragic moment. I can grow from this. And then you literally said, my dad passed away, and I want to see if I can make a joke about it.
Yeah, there was a story. I don't even know if it was a story, but you know, or there's like a could be just an anecdote. It could be made up, but you know, these two kids, they have a dad who's an alcoholic, and one of the kids grows up to be an alcoholic, and the other one grows up to be a success. And you know, and they ask them both like, why are you this way? Like, and the alcoholic son goes, oh, it's because my dad was an alcoholic. And then the other son goes, why are you a success? And he goes, it's because my dad was an alcoholic, right? So it's just sort of like, how are you going to take this moment and react to it, and how, because it does come from you, right? It does come from you. I think there's a lot to be said there. There's a lot to be said there. I'm not saying it, but there's a lot to be said there.
Would You Be My Dad? That's kind of a dark song, but I want to take you to the other side, where you know you're an interesting dichotomy of ideas, because you want to create safe space. You sometimes create unsafe space in the comedy, and it's that friction that I find so fun. Like, you're yelling people like, be ready, and it's like, and everybody's laughing, right? Because they know you're going to say it, so everybody's ready. Okay,
yeah.
Here's the thing that I notice is, I don't know if you post chronologically, but am I imagining this, but are more women showing up to your show than guys?
You know, if you look at my metrics on social media, my audience is more men, but when you go to my shows, the audiences are more women. But it's also a lot of dates, a lot of my audience, because I don't talk about race, politics, religion, or, you know, subjects that would be deemed edgy. My audiences kind of run the gambit of every time. I'm talking, I have the dude with the neck beard who owns a Ford F-150, and I have the non-binary person with purple hair and a septum piercing sitting there with their girlfriend in the same crowd. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's a safe space for everybody. Dude, I did a show in Tampa, right? This is shortly after October 7th, what happened in Israel, right? But I did this show in Tampa, and I had literally a group of 6 people from Israel who loved and enjoyed the show. And I also had a group of 6 people from, I forget where they were, but it was from a Muslim country, right? Two peoples that would essentially be at complete odds. They didn't know they were in the crowd together, but they were both enjoying the same exact show. Am I going to solve the crisis in Israel and Palestine? I don't think I will, personally. I mean, I don't know, man. It's like I'm putting something together where everybody feels warm and safe and included at the space, and it kind of doesn't divide anybody. And if that is not if being, safe and not edgy is a bad thing, I'm okay with it personally. But mostly women, yeah.
Yeah. you flirt a lot. There's a lot of riz going on here.
Oh yeah, we love flirting. I mean, people love to see flirting, especially if you do it well. I'm trying to let people take some notes,
And then sometimes women get aggressive with you, and you kind of like, oh, they're now like the woman who spun herself around with you.
Oh yeah, that girl gave me a little kiss. I mean, listen, man, I'll make out with I made out with a dude on stage. I have that. That's an older song, the Bro song. I should do that song more. I don't know if you know what it is, because my special came out in May of last year, and between May and now, like, my audience is like exponentially grown, and there's a lot of people who don't even know that I have this music or haven't taken the time to watch the full hour special, right?
Yep.
So I could probably do that. I'm going to try it at some of the tours.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that.
What I notice is you kind of create this atmosphere where people who are maybe want to hook up, go to the show, and you're like, are you guys going to have sex tonight?
Oh, we want that.
You want that. Like, tell me about why you started doing that, and what do you think is happening after the show?
When I started writing my comedy songs, they were all pretty sexual in nature. And as somebody who was a teenager who didn't really know how to talk to girls, I thought it'd be cool to have this type of funny sexual music that could break the ice. If you can't, this music can. Like, here, listen to this silly song about eating booty, And you might not eat booty that night, but you might kiss, right? You got to laugh together, right? Life is too I hate this. Life is too short to not be having sex, Sex is great. Me and my girlfriend have really amazing sex. I am always shocked to find out people are not having the best sex they can be having. I'm not a sex therapist, but I am sex positive. And so I've had people have their first kiss at my shows. I've had people email me several years later asking me if I can go to their wedding because they went to several of my shows and I was a huge part of their story. I don't know. I love it, man. I love getting a DM later like, hey man, we hooked up and I appreciate you. Thank you. That's like such a great feeling.
In a way, you're like a couples therapist or something, because I see people going, right? And then there's a little like negative energy, a little friction, and you kind of bring them together and you're like, not by your body language or not. And he's like, no, I'm really happy.
Oh yeah. And it's like, yeah, then why don't you have your hand on her leg, or are you showing more? Some people aren't affectionate like that, but it's, I mean, I have a hard time calling my girlfriend baby, and I'm trying to work on that. I call her by her first name because I feel like the minute you start calling somebody like a cute name, it's like it implies possession of a person. I don't know what it is. It's like the whole thing about it. I don't know.
You sing a whole song about the dad, and you made a whole song about having more sex.
I do. I have a song about that.
Can we hear a little bit of the sex song?
Let me see if I have it on here.
Okay.
Fuck right now, before it's too late. Oh, sorry. Before it's too late. Fuck right now, because it feels great. Fuck for the children and fuck for me. And fuck to build that family tree. That joke was inspired by Nick Cannon. Fuck a stranger or fuck a friend. I gotta do this song too, dude. Damn. Fuck them twice and then fuck them again. Anyway, you got it. The funny thing about that song is I wrote it like 3 or 4 months before I even recorded the special. Normally I don't. No, I don't do something so soon, but I just really loved the song. I love the idea of doing something totally insane and silly and goofy and ridiculous paired with like something that's with a beautiful like hallelujah type of arpeggiated type of thing, I just think it's so funny.
When you sing that song, and I saw it on the special, in my mind, because I'm a visual person, I almost see it like a scene from Les Miserables, and you're climbing this pile of debris and you're holding this flag and it's like a wiener or something and you're like at the tip of it, and it's very inspirational.
When I get so we're gonna do the next comedy special, and the premise for the next comedy special is called Colors of Love, and we're gonna release 3 20-minute specials um, for several reasons. First of all, my audience won't really watch anything longer than 20 minutes. And then second, like, we're going to clip it up anyway. We're going to clip it up and put it on social media. Third, it's like an aesthetic, high concept type of thing. Every 20 minutes is going to have its own style, right? So maybe a certain 20 minutes is the sad songs. Another 20 minutes is the crowd work. Another 20 minutes is the fun, exciting songs, right? And we'll just have a different kind of color palette. And then after that special, I think I'm going to do the full-fledged big production of like Morgan's greatest hits, but we can do things like that, right? Like I have a song about going to a sex party, right? From early on in my days of music. And for that song, I really want to have a choir of like 30 to 50 people ranging from all colors, shapes, sizes, genders, sexualities. And then at the end of it, the show ends with everybody fucking making out and just, you know, going at it. And then the curtain closes and then the credits roll, you know? And then like with the Fuck Right Now song, you know, we could have that, you know, for freedom kind of energy, you know, and for what's another? I have a new song that you haven't really heard. It's called Intrusive Thoughts, right? Where that's a little bit more punk rock, Blink-182 energy, and for that song, I'd probably fucking have a band behind me, and we'd rock out to that one. So a show where we kind of show different elements and do a full production, I think could be really fun and exciting.
You know what I think separates really good bands from great bands is the amount that they're able to engage with the audience.
Yep.
So I think some people think you stand up there and you sing into a mic and that's art, and it is, I guess, but it's not what you really want to experience as a concert goer. And I really admire the musicians and artists who can really bring the audience in. I remember watching the film biography of Queen and how they're like, what can we do to get them to clap along? Like make a beat that everyone can time to, and then Freddie Mercury would do these callbacks. Live Aid, he would do that, and everybody was like trying to keep up with him. Yeah, exactly. That's a very famous clip.
Yeah.
I think I love it like when you walk off the spotlight and you wade right into the audience. Like, oftentimes you're sitting on the floor and you just throw a mic and then you run back and you're like, stop, or you play something. And then you mentioned these cards that you would give people to sing.
Yeah.
And then I love the reaction. They look at it and they're like, oh, I'm not going to say that. But you kind of give them permission and they say some outrageous thing.
Don't worry, you didn't write this. Somebody else wrote this. You're just the singer today. You're not the songwriter.
How do you come up with those ideas?
Again, it's just like trying to find ways to make the audience feel included. Because Gen Z has been cooped up in their house and attached to their phone and their dopamine receptors are absolutely fried. They are starved for something experiential, you know. They didn't grow up in a place where they could embarrass themselves like we did. You know, I'm 37. We had talent shows. We just had a lot of moments where we could embarrass ourselves and be goofy and silly, you know. But they don't have that because it's like their digital footprint is under complete scrutiny from their peers at all times, right? I can't even imagine what it's like to go to school and like have a Instagram profile. So the show is experiential. Like, you know, the first thing I say in my show is like, hey guys, take your phones out, film and photograph whatever you want. It's the complete opposite of whatever you've seen. I don't care, you know. I'm a baker, dude. I'll bake more bread if something truly gets old. You know, we'll make more material. I'm not concerned about it. I mean, obviously, I'm doing music. You know, I don't think every stand-up comedian can do that. It's different. The art form is slightly different, but because I'm doing music comedy. For them, it's like realistically, Chris, it's like how maybe they'll post the clip. Maybe it'll go viral. Most cases it won't, because I'm going to post the clip myself. And even if it does go viral on somebody else's account, it all just kind of feeds back into my ecosystem anyway, right? And also I think about like, you should let everybody film your shows all the time, because it's like 100 years ago that we had no access to this technology. Wouldn't it have been nice to be able to see, you know, the rap? I mean, I know they filmed things. I would say the Rat Pack or whatever musician, or like Nina Simone, or wouldn't it have been nice to go see her live and have the 60-second clip of the show, and then you could always go back to it? And because imagine, man, I'm going to be like, God willing, like 80, 90 years old, sitting in a chair, and I could just go to my phone and look at all the things I did, you know? oh, look at that I remember that concert. Yeah, man, I allow them to film, and I allow them to like really embrace that, be a part of the experience.
Before we get out of here, I want to ask you one personal question. If it doesn't feel right, let's not do it, okay? I don't know if it's a joke or if it's real, because you mentioned your girlfriend, but on stage I heard you say something like, I'm in an open relationship.
Yeah.
And then you kind of set it up as a joke. Can you first tell that joke and then explain like what that really means?
Yeah, no, but it is real. It is real.
It is real.
You know, I think in my industry, listen, it's just tough to hold down even the slightest normal relationship, you know, especially if I travel 6 months out of the year, maybe sometimes more at this point in my career. Who knows, I'll book some TV shows or movies, and then I'm going to have to be doing press junkets in like Paris or some shit, or who knows where. Before, I wasn't really in a place where I could bring my girlfriend to certain cities and shows, but now I can. If I'm like, hey, you want to come to any of the cities on tour, you can. But it's just one of those things where it's like, I heard this on another podcast. I think we'd rather work through jealousy than dishonesty, you know. And I think I know enough people who cheat on their spouses or significant others in this industry, and we see marriages fail all the time, and I don't know. It's just what works right now, and maybe it won't work forever. And but that's where it is. That's where it is. You know, that's what we're doing right now. This requires a lot of communication.
Do you set up certain rules? Do you guys have any kind of rules, or?
Yeah, we have certain rules for sure. We mostly do like a don't ask, don't tell policy. And I'm not saying this is for everybody. I'm just saying that there might be times, you know, she might like somebody too. I mean, like, and we bring a third person to hang out with us. I don't know. That's just kind of what works right now. But then again, like, I don't know if I do it as much as I used to, and like partake, like when I'm traveling. It just has, it's just a lot. Also, like, I'm at a certain status in my career now where it's like, I can't just be hooking up with anybody. Not because like somebody's not attractive enough. It's just like, you know, I don't know these people. In reality, when I was a nobody, it wasn't a big deal. But I'm not trying to toot my own horn. But now it's like, you know, it's a liability, honestly, if we're being completely open and upfront about it.
And do you set up rules for yourself, like when you're on the road?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, like if I have back-to-back shows, like I'm not doing anything fun when I'm touring. I mean, I'm working, right? Like, I doubt that Beyonce after a show goes and drinks and celebrates at a nightclub. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're doing the shows that I'm doing, if you're performing as much as I'm performing, there's no room for alcohol, weed, any sort of smoke, any sort of like caffeine, anything that's going to dry your voice out. No room for loud places. The worst thing you could do for your voice is go to a bar or to a loud nightclub. I mean, it's literally the worst thing you could do for your voice. I have fans who invite me out after shows all the time, and I say no. And they're like, what do you mean you don't want to drink? Let me get you a shot. Come on. And it's like, bro, like, this is my job, and I'm to perform at this level of professionalism. It's like, you need to take every single aspect seriously. Now, if I don't have a show the next night or 2 nights in a row, then maybe that night I could have a cheeseburger late at night and maybe an alcoholic beverage or something like that. But even then, you know, it's like I might not want to. I'd rather just go back to the hotel because, dude, it's like I just spent the last 4 hours being the party. Why do I want to go to another one? I am the party, bro. You guys came. I was the party. Why do I want to go to the party when I am the party, bro? You know?
Do you feel any sense of guilt? Because they're like, we had such a good time. Let's not let it end.
No, not anymore. I mean, I think there was, like, even now I feel a little bit bad. I can't answer all my DMs anymore. It's like too much. Hopefully my audiences will just understand that, like, there's a certain level of self-care and peace of mind that you have to give yourself when it comes to that sort of thing. And also, you know, if you're hanging out after shows and going to bars and clubs, you're kind of putting yourself at risk to get sick. When, you know, you're doing a 1,000-seat venue and $30,000 to $60,000 is on the line, you don't want to cancel that show because, again, people flew, drove, got hotels. It's not just about you and you know what I mean? It's like, oh, I want to have a fun time. It's like, no, if you cancel the shit, there's going to be people that are going to be mad at you.
Well, thank you for sharing on the personal note. I just wanted to clarify with you. My final question for you is this, is if I'm a person who wants to be more present, like I admire your ability to kind of go with the flow and make stuff up. Can you give us a couple of tips on how, if I'm a public speaker or if I'm a presenter, what I can do to really engage with the audience and respond to things that can't be planned for?
Yeah, there's 2 things that I would say. First off is meditate every day if you can, 5 to 20 minutes. That's a huge thing. That was a life-changing thing that I started maybe 6 or 7 years ago. I don't meditate every day now, but I do meditate, regularly. And then the last thing that I like to do, right? So all the stuff I do pre-show, I do that shit like in the morning. I do my yoga, I do my little exercises, I do my vocal exercises. I don't do that at the venue, all right? What I do at the venue is I try to make the boundary from before I walk on stage to after I walk on stage as invisible as possible, meaning like if I have my tour manager, my agent, or my friend off stage with me right before they're about to introduce me, I will carry on a conversation with that person until the very last moment. So that way, when I go from that moment to the stage, it feels like, for the most part, nothing has changed too much, if that makes sense, right? That's how I do it, at least because my show is so spontaneous and authentic and like on this, like what you see is what you get. There are some artists who don't do that, like Chapel Roan right now. She makes a really clear distinction, like Chapel Roan is the character who does the shows, and me, I'm the person who gets to live my life. So some people don't do that, but that's what I do. And especially I think in your case, like if you're doing public speaking, you want to come off as personable and as authentic as possible. So I think to go from just talking to one person and right on stage, that way when you talk to the people on stage, you're just kind of moving from one conversation to the other. I don't know if is that bad. Maybe that's bad idea. That's bad advice. But in theater school, they always said, like, the minute you make your entrance on stage, like, know exactly where you're coming from and know where you're going, right? So when you walk on the stage, it's clear, like, why you're there. At least that's what I do for me.
Does this help you when you're stepping in front of like the theater, or did you say Sydney? You were in Sydney? Well, that was like the biggest audience.
It did help me quite a lot, because when you really break it down into what's happening, you have 1,600 people staring at you. That's a lot of people, man. That's I thought 300 was a lot, and then 1,600 was like scary, because there was one instance I was opening a show New Year's Eve where I got booed by about 1,000 people, and it was this happened the New Year's, not this last New Year's Eve, but the one before it. And it was very eye-opening and terrifying, and it kind of teaches you that, like, no matter how well you're doing, disaster can always strike. So that kind of put the fear in me that, like, especially as the crowds get bigger, like as these audiences get bigger, I'm sure like, I feel like there's a fine line between an audience and a mob, you know what I mean? And it's like, if you say anything wrong or you mess up or the show's not going well, like, they're going to sniff that out, and they can feel that energy as a group 100%, and it's like hard to win them back. That's why, like, trying to make the moment before and transitioning into this seemingly like very not unrealistic but unusual circumstance, right, to speak in front of thousands and people, you have to find a way to normalize that somehow.
Right. It's unnatural to do that.
It's unnatural to do it, right? Like, you don't see one monkey speaking in front of 1,000 monkeys.
I think it makes perfect sense, Morgan, because I have a fear of public speaking. I'm an introvert. I'm super shy and socially awkward. And the one thing that's helped me to speak in front of people, I describe it to folks as like, I'm a plant, and you can't just take me from outside to inside or hot to sunny or, to cold, or you got to gently, like, I got to breathe into the room. And so I'll sit in the audience. I look around, it's like, I want to become familiar with this.
And to speak to that, like, before shows, I get to the venue early and I hang out on stage. I walk around the venue. I walk around. Of course, you have to, because this is going to be your workplace for the next hour, 2 hours. I don't know how long you're going to speak there. So I want to feel comfortable there. I want to know the space, and I don't want to feel like what's the opposite of home court? I'm like doing an away game,
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, the other thing is, it to speak to that, normalizing it builds, right? It builds. Like, you do 100 people, then 200 people, then 300 people. Suddenly, like, your threshold for this will change. So that's another part of it, though. That's kind of hard to kind of give to other people, that perspective, because you kind of have to work your way into bigger and bigger crowds.
I need to acclimate to my environment to know what are the dimensions of the stage, where are the monitors, and if I want to do something weird, and can I do it? Is it even possible in this space?
Yeah, and it's like, when in theater school, they mention how you have to adjust your performance for every venue size, right? So 100 seats versus 1,000 seats versus arena are all very different things. So even when the pandemic happened, I adjusted my performance for the Zoom when I was doing corporate Zoom events.
It's been a real pleasure talking to you, Morgan. I appreciate you giving me extra time.
Of course.
You're the first type of guest ever that's been on our show that's purely from the entertainment world. Usually I talk to business folks, so this is a real treat for me.
And I hope I was able to give you some nuggets, or the listeners some nuggets. I hope they enjoyed it.
Once again, if you don't know who my guest is, his name is Morgan Jay. It's Jay. You can find him on all socials, on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube. But his biggest following is on TikTok with over 4 million followers there.
What's your name, bro? Ethan. Sorry, I interrupted your shit, man. I'm so sorry.
No, good. I love it. Interrupt away.
That's the game. So go check your boy out, morganj.com, or you could just Google Auto-Tune Comedy Guide, and it'll pop up.
Yes, and he's got a bunch of venues he's playing at, but it feels like almost half of them are sold out already. So don't sleep on this, guys. Go out and get your ticket. It's 2025, spring 2025, right?
We just announced it today, and the shows are selling out.
And if you're listening to this and you're in Los Angeles, you'll have the opportunity to see him. NorCal, there's San Francisco. There's a bunch of cities he's hitting.
Thank you, Chris. It was really cool to talk to you. I was really excited when you invited me on here, man. I was surprised to be invited on here because I know exactly, like you said, you talk to business people, so I was very intrigued. So I appreciate it, man.
Thank you. And now I get to tell my wife. I talked to the guy that I've been showing you this whole time, so it's been wonderful.
Yeah, it's the end of the podcast. My name is Morgan J, and you're listening to the future.